Sam Yarnell will not be with us today. He is snowed in, snowed out. He's got no internet. So it's just me. You get this. This is your future for the next 60 minutes. Matt Verderame will hang out with me. Does a great job on the NFL. Insider over at SI.com, Sports Illustrated. All things NFL with him. We'll get into the conference championship games, the latest on the coaching searches. There is news out of Buffalo today as it relates to one particular person that might have been a candidate. We'll get into that. The sports world has been reacting to this latest ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis. I want to talk about that coming up a little later on in the show. There is also other news from the NBA to get to, revolving around two star players, both thought to be candidates to be moved at the trade deadline, who are going to be tough to move now because they're not going to be playing. We'll get into that. Also, Scottie Scheffler teed it up at the American Express Championship this weekend in California for his first PGA Tour event. And guess what? He won. And good night, everybody. I just scooped myself. That coming up a little later on as well. But we start things out as we always do on this show. It's the big story. And the big story today has to be, obviously, what we saw yesterday in the conference championship games, both with the Seahawks doing what they do, which is win football games. And the big story out of that game is Sam Darnold, because we were all waiting for it. We were all waiting for that moment. Even up until the last minute of this game, we were all waiting for that potential moment where Sam Darnold was going to fall apart, where it was all going to go by the wayside. All his amazing efforts throughout the season, that there was going to be some mistake. There was going to be something costly that happens. And it just never happened yesterday. The Rams were not able to get that moment, extract that moment out of Sam Darnold on Sunday in the NFC Championship game. And as a result, a very deserving Seattle Seahawks team goes to the Super Bowl. And look, I picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl before the season started, so obviously you know where my rooting interests lie, but this is a great story. Sam Darnold, the ultimate rags to riches story, the former New York Jet. How many people have we seen go into that Jet situation and come out destroyed from it? Thankfully, Geno Smith had some serviceable years in Seattle. We've seen Sam Darnold now doing what he's doing, but we've seen quarterback after quarterback come through the Jets organization and come out of that meat grinder, positively destroyed. And Sam Darnold's come through the other end. Remember, a backup quarterback in San Francisco with the 49ers. A guy that just kind of meandered around the league, was looking for that opportunity. Then he goes to Minnesota, gets an opportunity there with Kevin O'Connell, who, at the end of the day, Sam Darnold should be thanking his lucky stars that he landed in Minnesota. Because what Kevin O'Connell did for his career and being able to show that he could be not just a capable starting NFL quarterback, but a potential Super Bowl winning NFL quarterback. He owes the world to Kevin O'Connell and the folks in Minnesota with the Vikings. For having that opportunity. And of course, an injury to a certain quarterback there, which obviously had a lot to do with why he wound up in that position. I mean, think about the types of things that had to take place, the sequence of events that had to take place for Sam Darnold to get the opportunity that he got. If McCarthy doesn't get injured last year, he probably doesn't see the field. And look where he is now. He's going to play for a Super Bowl against the Patriots, who he will be heavily favored against, as he should be heavily favored against. Because with all due respect, this Patriots team's going to get mollywopped in the Super Bowl. I am sorry to spoil it for our friends watching in New England, and our friends watching throughout the country who might be Patriots fans. They are going to get beaten in this game, and I don't think it's going to be that particularly interesting. I hope it's a good halftime show with Bad Bunny and Green Day. I hope you have money on something that could, make it interesting for you if you're putting money on the game, because this is not going to be a thoroughly entertaining Super Bowl, I don't think. And I know people will go back and replay this over and over if I'm wrong, and that's fine. I don't care. I have thick skin. I can take it. But I feel like this is a missed number right now. The odds on this game are at 4.5. The Patriots getting 4.5. They should be getting at least 6.5. This thing's off by at least 2 points. I think this is a 7 to 10 point game at best. At best. I just don't see New England having the firepower to be able to hang with this Seahawks team. If you've watched this postseason, you should know by now, this Patriots team is not scoring a lot of points. And they're going to need to be able to keep up with Seattle. Because that offense is going to put points up. And look, maybe they can force Sam Darnold into some mistakes. That's going to have to be their hope. Try and limit the number of possessions that offense gets. I mean, you had Cooper Kupp making big catches in that game yesterday. And I'm watching this pedestrian. And I don't want to hear about the weather. I don't want to hear about the weather when we talk about this matchup between the Patriots and Broncos yesterday. There was no weather in the first half of that game, and the Patriots offense couldn't do anything against the Broncos. And quite honestly, if the Broncos have Bo Nix, they're probably in the Super Bowl right now. And by the way, they probably get beaten by Seattle too. Not to destroy anybody's fragile egos in Denver right now. But if the Broncos get there, I thought yesterday's game between the Seahawks and Rams was the de facto Super Bowl. And I didn't see anything yesterday from the Patriots in that game that made me think otherwise. I still feel like it was the de facto Super Bowl. So enjoy the build-up for the next 2 weeks. Somebody's going to try and sell you on why the Patriots can win this game. You're out of your mind. If you're thinking about betting the Patriots, just don't bet the game. Just stay away from it altogether. Because they're not going to win. I'm sorry to disappoint. Great season. Congratulations on 14 wins in the regular season. They're not winning this game. What does Matt Verderame think? The SI.com NFL Insider joins me next. Good to have you with us on this Monday edition of the show. I promised Matt Verderame of SI. And the NFL Insider over at SI is here. Let's get into all things NFL with him, and we begin with what took place yesterday on Championship Sunday. And, of course, the Seattle Seahawks punched their ticket, Matt, and, boy, it was everything I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be a great game. I thought there would be points. I know a lot of people on the broadcast were kind of surprised there was. What took you by surprise most in what we saw in that Seahawks-Rams game yesterday?
How easily Jackson Smith-Njigba got open over and over and over. And look, he's a great player. I mean, I'm not surprised he had a good game, but if you're the Rams, I feel like you go into that game saying he cannot beat us, make anybody else beat us. And he just killed them all game long. Anytime they needed a play, anytime they needed a big conversion, he was there. He was often wide open. I thought the Rams and Chris Shula would basically try to double him the entire game. And, okay, if Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed beat us, cool. Let him do it. You know, I mean, Shaheed's averaged 20 yards a game with the Seahawks. Like, go ahead and do it. Beat me. They did not do that. So I was surprised at that. And I was least surprised by the fact that the Rams special teams just killed them again, which was the theme all year long. Every time they lost, their special teams were right in the middle of it. And they were, again, on Sunday. Yeah,
it is remarkable. As much as we talk about the Seahawks going forward, just one quick point on the Rams. Could that have been the last time we saw Matthew Stafford? Or do you get the sense he's coming back?
I think he'll come back, but I think that if you're the Rams, that's what's the sickest part of this, is that, he led the league in passing yardage, he led the league in touchdowns. The odds that he has another season like that, as he's about to turn 38 years old, pretty low. And, look, Devontae Adams isn't getting any younger. Like that team, while they have some very good young players, the genesis, the nucleus of that team is that offense. And, of course, Stafford's the son of that solar system. And I just wonder if you're the Rams, are you know, when you're on that flight back to LA yesterday, you're thinking about the fact kind of quietly, I don't know that we'll ever have this good of a chance again. Because also, let's be real, not to, put the cart before the horse. That game was basically Super Bowl 59.5. Because whoever won that game.
I said it.
Was going to be, I mean, it should win the Super Bowl. And if you're the Rams, you're sitting there going, man, if we win that game, we probably win it all again. And now McVay's a Hall of Famer and Stafford's certainly a Hall of Famer and all the rest of it where, now, those things are somewhat open.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, though, because I said the same thing going to this. Felt like this was the de facto Super Bowl. Before we get into the Super Bowl, let's talk about what the Patriots did. And, I mean, look, a remarkable turnaround when you look at back-to-back 4-win seasons to a team that is going to the Super Bowl. But let's also acknowledge the fact that they kind of had it handed to them in the last two games with, C.J. Stroud wetting the bed and then, a Broncos team with Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. It does make it difficult to grade sort of what this team is as it goes into the Super Bowl, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, I think two things can be true simultaneously. One is that the Patriots got there and they deserve to be there, and kudos to them. It is an amazing turnaround. They won 14 games rather. 14 games, they won 3 or more playoff games. But what is also true is what a lot of Patriots fans are going to scream about for the next 2 weeks and fight against. They've had one of the easiest paths in NFL history to get to a Super Bowl. I mean, they have exactly one regular season win against a team with a winning record. It's Buffalo, Week 5. It's the only team they beat all year long with a winning record. They got to the playoffs, and they played 3 teams that can't score a point. The Chargers have no offense, and Herbert was terrible in that game. He had open receivers all game long, couldn't hit any of them. Stroud was horrific in the weather up in New England. And then Denver has Jarrett Stidham at quarterback, you mentioned. Listen, kudos to New England for playing well defensively, but they played 3 teams that in a lot of years legitimately wouldn't even have been the playoffs in the AFC. Denver would have with Bo Nix, but if Jarrett Stidham had to start all year long, they're not a playoff team. So it's just one of those things. You look at New England, and I think it's fair to say deserve to be there, but I was thinking about this morning. Probably one of the weakest teams I've ever seen make a Super Bowl. Who's the team that last made the Super Bowl? You're like, that team was weaker on paper than this team. You're going back a ways.
Yeah.
What team is it? Because you could say, well, Cincinnati, but Cincinnati had Burrow and Chase and Higgins and Mixon in his prime. Listen, I'm not going to make them out like they're the 94 Chargers because they're better than the 94. But they're probably in that 2000 Giants range, right? You're a Giants fan. That.
Yeah.
That type of team where you're they got some players, but they're not great here. It's that, maybe the 03 Panthers, a team like that you look at and just go, yeah, they're there and that's cool. But how many guys off this Pats team do you think are going to end up in Canton? 0? 1? It's not a high number.
No, it is not. When you sort of analyze this Super Bowl from 2 weeks out, and I often don't get into the spread stuff with you, but 4.5, by the way, feels like a missed number. To me, it feels like a 7 to 10 point game.
It's funny you said that. I said that on Twitter. I'm I can't believe this number isn't 7.
Or at least 6.5 or somewhere in that range to make you think it shortly. Is. I don't know if it goes up that much. It might go up another point. I don't know if it goes up. I don't know if it's going to go up 2, but I'm shocked there isn't a ton of early money flooding in. On Seattle as we get this thing started leading into that game. What is the big story to you? What is the big storyline? Is it Sam Darnold? What is there to get excited about? Because I have a feeling it's going to be very difficult. And I know this is inside the Beltway stuff that only guys like us talk about. It's going to be hard to get. It feels like it's going to be difficult to get excited for this game.
Yeah, well, I think on one hand, look, even though they haven't been there in 7 years, everybody's still sick of New England. I think, right? It's based off of how many times they went for 20 years running. And then Seattle, look, they're interesting, but they're not star power sexy. So, they're very, very good. But yeah, I think the storyline is going to be Darnold. I think it's going to be the fact that look, the Jets basically ran this guy into the ground and he was, people will forget this, but he was in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago as the backup in San Francisco.
Yep.
He was just a guy didn't know anybody could have had and nobody wanted. And I think personally, not that this will get traction because people don't have the attention span for this, but like John Schneider, I think is really the story of this whole thing. Like built a whole team, won a Super Bowl, went to 2, team falls apart, fires Carroll, trades Geno Smith, trades DK Metcalf. And they're back in the Super Bowl with this loaded team.
We got one more segment with Matt Verderame. Got to get into the coaching stuff with him. He's going to hang out with us. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to do. Matt Verderame from SI does a great job on the NFL. Hangs with us for another segment. Continuing the conversation on the NFL, our friend Matt Verderame is here. SI.com, NFL Insider. He'll be out at the Super Bowl with all our fancy foosball friends next week. Let's get to the coaching side of things and talk about Mike McCarthy. There's still 4 teams with openings. At this rate, it feels like they might all be filled by the time we get to the Super Bowl, the way some of these teams are moving at breakneck speed. Matt, talk about the Mike McCarthy move, from this perspective. 62 years old, not the typical Steelers hire when you look at the last few head coaches they had.
Right.
I look at it from the perspective of, is this done in some way to appease Aaron Rodgers to get him to come back another year because you still feel like you're in win now mode? I thought when Tomlin goes, you tear it down and you do it over again and you rebuild it correctly. This doesn't feel like that sort of move. What is your read on the logic behind Mike McCarthy and how it relates to Aaron Rodgers ultimately?
Well, listen, I mean, if this has anything to do with them retaining Aaron Rodgers, it's insane. Aaron Rodgers was not good. He hasn't been good for multiple years now. It's over. He had a great career. He's first ballot Hall of Famer. It's time to walk away and go do something else with life. The Steelers have been doing what they shouldn't have been doing for the last 5 years, which is treading water and trying to just win like 10 games and make the playoffs. And at some point, they seem to accept the fact that they're not good anymore. Because they're not good anymore. They need to tear this thing down. That being said, look, McCarthy's a good coach. He's won a lot of games in his career. He's won a Super Bowl. The problem I have with the hire is I just feel like at this point in his career, 62 as you mentioned, like he's still got some runway if he wants it. Okay, I mean, there are guys now that coach to their late 60s, early 70s. But McCarthy's enduring legacy in Green Bay, while he won a Super Bowl, was that he should have won more than he did. That team had a superstar in Rodgers at the time, a lot of talent, and they went to 1 Super Bowl. And they had some galling playoff defeats. And then he went to Dallas, and that team was oftentimes picked as a Super Bowl team, everything else, and they would win their 12 games, and that's great, and then they'd lose in the playoffs to the Niners. Like, that was kind of what they did. McCarthy, if he has a good team, I think will win games, but I don't know that he's going to win the big game. And I wonder how much of this hire is because he's from Pittsburgh. And that seems to be a big thing that teams love to be able to trumpet. Like, I think Brian Daboll is going to end up in Buffalo because he's from Buffalo. It's like, okay, what else is he? Like, is he a good football coach? Because that seems to be more important than where he was born. I mean, and like Daboll, obviously there's more to it. Like he coached Allen. Like Daboll was a disaster with the Giants. Like they're going to hire that guy just because of like 2 years as an OC. Like I just look. I'm not going to kill the McCarthy hire, but I think it's just kind of an uninspired hire. Don't hate it, don't love it. It's like a C of a hire.
When you talk about should have won more in Green Bay, it makes me think of Bobby Cox in baseball. Almost the Bobby Cox in Atlanta. That Atlanta team should have won more World Series. They won 1.
Right.
It kind of feels a little bit like that.
It's just unfulfilling.
Yeah.
Like Aaron Rodgers, not to make it about Rodgers, but he was the quarterback for McCarthy all those years in Green Bay. Like Rodgers is maybe the most talented football player at the quarterback position I've ever seen. Like just physically gifted. He, Mahomes, Al, all those guys. To win 1 Super Bowl and to get to one, quite honestly, listen, he won. You can never take it away from him. If he doesn't win their Super Bowl, which at this point feels highly unlikely he will, you walk away just going, yeah, it was a great career, but.
It's like you go to Outback. It's like you're going to walk out of Outback and you're like, all right, it was all right. It was good. It filled me up.
You went to a steakhouse.
You went to a steakhouse. Exactly. It's not Smith and Walensky. It's not, it's not Fleming's.
Yes.
Yeah,
but you did technically go to a steakhouse.
Right. You went to a steakhouse. That's kind of what it feels like for me. Give me the Bills, the Bills side of this here real quick. On the fact that Phillip Rivers is pulled out of any idea of this head coaching search, which was crazy to begin with, but they were talking to Phillip Rivers. He pulls out. Insert joke wherever you want, by the way, on that. So there's the conversation about, Kubiak potentially there, Daboll, obviously there. You think it's going to be Daboll ultimately, yes?
I do. Kubiak, it sounds like, now look, I mean, who knows, but it sounds like the Raiders are the leader in the clubhouse for Kubiak. Now, that stuff can change. I've learned in my years covering the NFL, the coaching carousel is not even worth reporting on because things just change instantaneously. I think Daboll's the guy in Buffalo. I cannot imagine that they're going to hire Joe Brady based on the fact that he's part of this coaching staff that they're dismantling as we speak. McDaniel is not in the running anymore. As you mentioned, Rivers, a hilarious interview to begin with. The guy just finished playing an hour ago. And they're like, what about this guy? Let's have a quarterback who's never won a Super Bowl try to teach Josh Allen how to win a Super Bowl. But Daboll to me, again, should it matter? He's from Western New York? Of course not. Does it matter? Yeah, probably does. He also was the OC. They got Allen kind of turned around, got his career going. They have a good relationship. The hesitancy I would have with that hire is Daboll was a disaster with the Giants. Not even, you can't even really sit there and say, well, he had Daniel Jones. Well, Daniel Jones was just fine with Shane Steichen. But we'll see. That would be my guess as to which way to go.
All right, real quick on these. Cleveland, I know you're not doing the heavy reporting on this. Where's ultimately Cleveland going here?
Most people feel like Jim Schwartz is just going to get promoted. No one will take the job. No one wants the job. People actively don't want the job.
And I thought that would be the Raiders, but then again, the Raiders have the top pick in the draft, so maybe that's why. Maybe
the cap space.
Yeah,
the Browns have no cap space and they suck.
The Cardinals.
I mean,
that's a meme.
I mean, who will take the job? I don't know. I think that right now is considered the least desirable job because ownership has not been great there forever. You have a quarterback who they clearly don't want, who's got a big contract. The roster is okay in spots, lacking in others. I think they're gonna look. They're gonna probably kind of take who they can get, quite frankly, and maybe they get lucky. But that job has not been hotly desired to this point.
I only got about 15 seconds. Tomlin and McDermott obviously it looks like are gonna take a year off. And in the case of Tomlin, you think he comes back after 1 year or more than that?
I think Tomlin might be done. But maybe,
really? Wow.
Yeah, I know Jay Glazer reported that, but I always kind of felt that way. I wonder if Tomlin kind of goes the Cowher route and it's just I'm good. But I think it's at least this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's more than 1 year.
Matt Verderame does a great job. Check out his work, si.com. Also, the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon. Don't forget that. Go and check him out there as well. I always appreciate you, my friend. Have fun in Santa Clara. We'll talk down the road.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to the show. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Also, subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. This show is available there Monday through Friday, also Sports Wrap Shorts. More on that a little later in the show. Let's talk some NBA, because there were a couple of notable injury notes. It's a bit redundant, I guess, to talk about from the weekend that was. And I think you're facing an interesting situation here if you're a couple of teams in particular right now. And we got to start with what's going on in Milwaukee with the Bucks, because there's been all sorts of conversation surrounding the future of Giannis Antetokounmpo and whether or not the team would trade him at the trade deadline. He just came back from his most recent calf strain, which knocked him out of action for a few weeks. And then in a game against the Nuggets on, I want to say it was Friday night. It might have been Saturday night. Game against the Nuggets, though, he pulls up lame in a game where, even Doc Rivers acknowledged he was not getting up and down the floor well, was not as engaged as he could be. And some people are looking into this and saying this is Giannis just trying to run out the clock until the trade deadline, force his way out of Milwaukee, that, he's not really hurt. I'm not going to go there because I think it's always dangerous. We went through this years ago with Lamar Jackson about whether or not Lamar Jackson was legitimately hurt. And a lot of people questioned, was Lamar Jackson just dogging it because he wanted to get a new contract from the Ravens and just saying, I'm not gonna go and give my best because I'm on the final year of a deal. I'm gonna force their hand. I'm not prepared to say that because you can't tell what's going on inside a guy's head. That said, in the final minute or so of this game, he pulls up lame, does Giannis. And the Bucks still almost win the game. They wind up losing. He goes to the locker room, then he turns around and goes back to watch the end of the game, which was also kind of a bizarre scenario in the way all of this played out. But then after the game, he came out to the media and self-declared, I'm going to probably be out about 4 to 6 weeks, which takes us till well after the trade deadline, which is coming up fast. The trade deadline, February 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll have full coverage of it here on SportsWrap, both on this show and through our SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. But Giannis is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. That means he may have played his final game in Milwaukee for the Bucks. And I don't know if you're a team, if this is a legitimate injury, I don't know if you're the Knicks or the Spurs or the Raptors or any number of teams that have been mentioned as potential candidates in the sweepstakes for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't know how you go and make that sort of deal. I don't know how you go and trade for a guy that feels like he's, his Achilles is a walking time bomb. I would have to have the utmost assurance from him, from the organization, from multiple doctors before I go make any sort of move for Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I think there has to be questions about, the guy you're getting based on the way this whole thing has played out over the last couple of years in terms of, does he want to stay? Does he want to go? Are you getting a guy that's all in, that's fully committed? If things go bad, is he going to go sour? There are a lot of questions out there about Giannis right now. He has hurt his reputation around the league. There is no getting around that. That is an inescapable truth here. Part 2. From Giannis to Ja Morant. Another guy thought to be on the market for the right price for NBA teams. He's dealing with an injury now that's going to keep him out until after the trade deadline. And unlike Giannis, who has at least won a championship, what you've won with Ja Morant has been a lot of headaches if you're folks in Memphis. And for all his talent and what a change of scenery might do for Ja Morant with the right team, is anybody out there really going to give whatever the asking price is from Memphis? And I got news for you. It's probably going to be steep unless they go the route of Atlanta with Trae Young, where you give him up, for essentially a couple of bags of Doritos, as they did with Washington. I don't know how this whole thing plays out in Memphis. There may not be a buyer for Ja Morant. They may have to hold him not because they want to, but because they have to, because nobody's going to give them anything unless they give him up at an enormous discount. And that's going to be hard to sell to your fan base in Memphis right now. Hello to our friends watching us in Memphis. It's going to be very difficult to make that argument to your fan base that you're giving up on Ja Morant, who you invested all this time and money and capital into, and then you're just going to give him away for nothing? Not at least, some first-round picks? because I think his value is so damaged around the league from some of the shenanigans that have taken place over the last several years, or the last few years at least. It's going to be very difficult to get any sort of reasonable asking price. We will have the trade deadline covered. We always have Kurt Heelan, NBA insider from NBC Sports on the show. Pro Basketball Talk, he'll be with us on Wednesday. Maybe some other surprises this week on the show when it comes to the NBA as well. So stick around for that. All right, from the NBA, we move to the heartache in Minneapolis right now. What residents are going through there and how the sports world is reacting in real time to what's happening in Minneapolis. I'll get to that next. All right, let's talk a little bit about this situation, and it's a very serious situation to talk about right now, and that's what's happening in Minneapolis. And I know that sports is an escape for many people from what is happening in the real world. And it's your opportunity to get away from some of the things in the news that maybe you don't want to hear about. But there is a reality that all of these things intersect. I used to host a podcast called the Intersection Podcast, and the gist of it was everything intersects. Sports, politics, entertainment, everything intersects. None of us are immune in our day-to-day lives from the various things going on around the world, not even just within the United States or within your own state or within your own city or town or municipality. Everything is interweaves. And the latest example of that is what transpired again this weekend. And I say again because it's the second time there's been an ICE-involved shooting and killing of a U.S. citizen. It was Renee Good just a couple of weeks ago. Now it's this gentleman, this ICU nurse that lost his life over the weekend during a protest in Minneapolis. And the sports world is not immune to these stories and having some reaction to it. It's been interesting to watch what's been going on at the Australian Open, because as much as we talk about what goes on in these matches, there's been an interesting undercurrent vis-a-vis this one journalist who's there, who has made it a point to ask every U.S. tennis player for their reaction to what's going on involving current events and whether or not you're proud of being an American right now on the world stage with everything that's going on in the U.S. And different tennis players have answered the question in different ways. Now there's this story of Alex Preddy having been killed by ICE officers on the ground in Minneapolis. And the sports world is reacting. Now, as much as people will want to make a story out of Steve Kerr or Breanna Stewart or Tyrese Halliburton, or even Stephen Curry speaking to the media about what transpired in Minneapolis over the weekend. And the NBA had to make an interesting decision as well. The NBA had to basically say, we're postponing the game on Saturday because the shooting happened on Saturday morning. And the NBA said, we're postponing the game on Saturday, and instead we're going to move it to Sunday, which has created an interesting back-to-back where they're playing two games in 2 nights, the Warriors and the T-Wolves in Minneapolis. Different story altogether. But there was the reaction from conservative America, which said, oh my God, the NBA is woke. They decided to cancel the game because of this shooting. And again, you could have your own opinions on that. I'm not going to use this platform to espouse my political views. If you want to know where I sit politically, it's not difficult to find. But what's as interesting to me about who has spoken out is who isn't speaking out. You've got a ton of athletes out there. You've got a ton of team owners, managers, coaches. The only people you've really heard from on this story is Breanna Stewart, Tyrese Halliburton, Steve Kerr and a little bit Stephen Curry when he was forced to answer a question in the postgame. And you could tell Curry's just not even that comfortable answering these sort of questions. It's not his bailiwick. It is not where he wants to be in the middle of these sorts of stories. Very interesting to watch, though, because that's what, 3, 4 athletes or coaches out of all the voices with platforms speaking out one way or another, whether you want them to speak out for ice, against ice, whatever it may be. It is most interesting to me that you've heard very little to anything. And I think there is a reason for that. I think athletes are scared. I think they are scared to death to speak their minds right now on the state of affairs in our country. And I think they have been scared to silence by some of the louder voices on the right in the country about what it could mean for your brand. We're coming after you if you have anything bad to say about this movement from ICE. I think a lot of athletes are scared. And I think conversely, there's the Nick and Joey Bosas of the world who are, clearly very conservative, the Matt Shaws of the world. I think they've been scared into silence in many ways by people on the left. We live in this very polarizing time. There is no getting around it. You are either on one side or the other, and if you're in the middle, we have no use for you. And it's the middle in America that just keeps shrinking as everybody, these larger segments of the population just run to their corners and run into their echo chambers. I don't know if there's any way around it. I used to think sports could bring people together. I don't feel that way anymore. I don't know if there's anything that can ultimately bring us all together. I don't know if there's that unifying moment that's coming that's going to bring us all together. What I do know is we are as divided as we have ever been. And I don't think sports is immune to that. And I thought it was important to at least spend a couple of minutes today on the show discussing that as we all try to figure out a way to move forward together in an extremely fractured environment that we live in. Coming back with more Sports Wrap. Don't go anywhere. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Monday. Sam Yarnell will be back tomorrow. For those wondering, Sam is not here today because of the massive winter storm. What do they call it? Fern? F-E-R-N? Winter Storm Fern, which has wreaked havoc really everywhere east of the Rockies. We live in Las Vegas, so luckily we have been immune to its effects. Although it's been cold here in Las Vegas. That's about all we've had to deal with, though. So our best wishes go out to everybody who's been impacted by Winter Storm Fern. As of Monday morning, I think 12 people have actually lost their lives from the effects of this winter storm, which is impacting everything from Maine down to the Gulf Coast and all points west, Texas, Oklahoma, all the way, like I said, out to the Rockies. Have been dealing with this. So our best wishes go out to everybody who has been impacted by this storm. A couple of reminders before we go. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can listen to this show Monday through Friday, 45 minutes, crystal clear audio. It works just as well as a podcast as it does a TV show, which we are proud to bring to over 270 affiliates around the U.S. and Canada. But also you can watch the show on our YouTube channel, the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Go and subscribe. We put a lot of work into this channel. We take the daily TV version of the show, strip out the commercials, 45 minutes, commercial-free, the Sports Wrap with Jason Page TV version of the show, Monday through Friday, available on our YouTube channel, as are Sports Wrap Shorts. These are fantastic. 1 to 3 minute long videos, usually closer to a minute though. They are the top stories of the day. When news breaks, sometimes we're not able to give it to you here on the show because it breaks after we've put the show to bed. You can go and check out SportsWrap Shorts on our YouTube channel. Subscribe today. I promise you won't regret it. SportsWrap Shorts also available on our TikTok, even though TikTok is down right now. I'm sorry, everybody, if you've been trying to get to us over on TikTok. TikTok's been down basically since like 4 a.m. on Saturday morning. I think it's been down since, something like that. Or 4 a.m. on Sunday morning. I can't remember. But it's been down for a minute. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to go to our TikTok, SportsWrap Jason Page, and our Instagram, SportsWrap Jason Page. And now, without any further delay, on this day, this Monday, which we're so glad to have you with us, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. The story should be Scottie Scheffler. I get it. But I just want to say for a moment how cool it was watching Blades Brown this weekend, competing at the American Express Championship on the PGA Tour. 18-year-old Blades Brown, who just graduated high school, played in a Corn Ferry event last week, rushed out to La Quinta to play for the second straight year at the American Express Championship. Goes out there, he's basically, tied for the lead or one shot behind the lead going into the final round. He gets to play the final round with Scottie Scheffler, the best golfer in the world right now. Who's got it better than this kid? Now, he didn't win. I think he finished tied for 18th. He won like $118,000. Probably the biggest check he'll ever cash in his life. Can you still get the big check if you don't win? Just because it's his first big check, they should give him a big check. It's like Happy Gilmore, where he wants the big check. $118,000, I believe, was the number he won. Congratulations to Blades Brown on a fantastic weekend out at the American Express Championship. All right, now for the other part of this story, and that is Scottie Scheffler. Scottie Scheffler, who wins yet again. It is his 20th win on the PGA Tour, and I had to pull up the stat just because it's so insane to look at. But Scottie Scheffler now has won an astronomical 20 tournaments in his first 151 starts. That is the second best and second fastest to win 20 events on the PGA Tour. Now I'm going to really blow your mind, though. Because you know what the fastest to 20 wins is? And you already know. It's a rhetorical question. It's Tiger Woods. And I know everything gets compared in the prism of Tiger Woods because we've all lived through that era, unless you're somebody who's really young watching the show and Grandpa Jason has to tell you about Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods won 20 events in his first 95 starts. It took him 95 starts on the PGA Tour. All right, I know. Enough about Tiger. Congratulations to Scottie Scheffler, though. Well-deserved. Wins for the 20th time in his career. He is the best golfer in the world. Nobody can touch him. It was his first start of the season on the PGA Tour, this event out there in La Quinta, which I've played this course, by the way. The shot that he put in the water on 17 on Sunday, I've actually parred that hole. It's called Alcatraz. Very cool. Not that you care. But congratulations to Scottie Scheffler on his 20th win and just continuing to dominate and lap the PGA Tour. I don't see any reason why that could stop. I'm interested to see what he does this year in a fully healthy year on the PGA Tour. Fascinated to watch what happens for him. Because remember, last year he was banged up, hurt his hand to start the year, had a nasty cut. He could go all-time great season. Who's going to stop him? You tell me. It's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks to Matt Verderame, all of you at home for watching. I'm Jason Page. We'll see you next time. Hi there. I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? Subscribe. We've got SportsWrap Shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? you probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half of as exciting. They're not half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.